how do you then mold this diverse group of kids that just are coming together that summer into a team that can win 17 games in a row and make it all the way to the Williamsport Little League finals?
That's a really good question and a really big question. Almost all of our kids have played Little League for years growing up. Some of them also play some select ball here and there. But the impetus was, Bernie turns out quite a bit of really good baseball talent. So you look at a bunch of our high school kids, they go and play in college. Some of them, have actually even been drafted by the major leagues. We had Cole Phillips here a couple of years ago that got drafted by the Braves. He was throwing 100 miles an hour when he was 17 years old. And so it was just interesting that you've got such really, really good talent with Bernie baseball, but you didn't really have that with Bernie Little League, right? So we kind of had this disconnect. So our general manager, Justin Newsom, kind of had this idea in the back of his head for years. He was talking to some of the parents about it. But obviously, as many people know, there is some drama involved in Little League with all-star selection and who gets to play on that team and which board member and which dad is sitting on the board and that kind of thing. And so they said, we had a new president come in a couple of years ago, Chris Carey. And so really he came from Abilene. And so when the two of those guys got together, it was really, we've got a shared respect for the game. We've got obviously a shared respect for just developing kids in general. And so let's try to, put this thing together and make a run of it. Right. And so we started talking to everybody back in the fall, said, hey, let's do this thing the right way. Let's make sure everybody plays Little League in the spring. We'll do the all-star tryouts. And then, out of the, several hundred kids that we have that play Bernie Little League, we'll select the best 12 and we'll make a run of it. And so, like I said, that's what we did. So ultimately the 12 of us that got selected, we all got broken up during the season. So there was 2 or 3 really good kids per, the Little League team during the season. We played our 14 games. And of course, it's typical Little League, right? Where the 2 or 3 kids that were really, really good, they'd get hits and then we'd have a bunch of walks or outs or whatever. And then, some of the games would be pretty lopsided one way or the other. But it's just part of what you put up with Little League. And we still had a good time. But we put so we had all-star tryout day. All the kids came out and tried out for the team. And then they had selections. Then the coaches were voted on. And so ultimately this team came together. We started doing practices after that selection process was complete, because obviously we didn't play games for, about 3 weeks or so. And then we were confident because we knew we had a squad of really good kids and some fairly sizable kids. So, I'll tell you, the families and the kids on our team were just fantastic. The kids are, they're typical 12-year-olds, right? They can be funny, they can be sad, they can be silly, all within 10 minutes of each other, but they are all really, really good kids at the end of the day. They all got really, really good hearts, and they're all really good athletes.